Hey guys, and welcome to My Deck Tech. I am Todd Anderson playing Black-Green Reanimator. Brad, just some thoughts about the deck. I know you have a lot because
please don't put me on the spot.
I'm gonna put you in the spot to embarrass me. Let's go.
This is the microphone. Well, I think this deck is terrible. That's all I got.
All right. Well, I played a lot of limited for M15. Testing for the Pro Tour, and I know that it's not exactly comparable to say that like some cards are absurd and limited, so they should be good and constructed. But I think that when a card isn't really getting tried out, people aren't really testing it at all. Those are the times when you find something good and limited, as there's a possibility that it could be very good and constructed. And I think that Endless Obedience is one of those cards where it's, if you have a deck built around it, the card's insane. It's the closest we've had to Zombify in a long time, I think. Unbearer Rights was kind of cheating. That one, was just like an unreal magic.
The most unfair.
Yeah, but Zombify has always been a card that they've been kind of afraid to reprint, and they keep giving us like these 5- and 6-mana ones that don't really come into play too often, or people don't really try them out too often. But being able to convoke it I think is pretty huge. And so I'm trying to abuse that today, and I have a lot of creatures in my deck that are not only discard outlets, but also are able to convoke with Endless Obedience to help us put Ashen Rider or Hornet Queen into play pretty quickly. But let's go and take a look at the deck, and we'll get over a little more. So to start off, we have the heart of most green decks with Elvish Mystic and Sylvan Caryatid. We're kind of missing out on Corso Crucifix. I'm not sure if that guy really belongs in this style of deck. I think he'd be fine because he convokes, but our deck is not super mana intensive. We're not actually trying to hardcast these Ashen Riders. We do have them as a backup plan with our 3 sources of white and 4 Sylvan Caryatids that never die. And, that's our, worst comes to worst, we can do it, so it's not so bad. We have a way to fill up our graveyard with Satyr Wayfinder and Grizzly Salvage, and I opted not to play Commune with the Gods because we are not that focused on playing Whip of Erebos, and I think that is the weakest one in this style of deck, because while we
it doesn't get you mana.
It doesn't get you mana, where Satyr Wayfinder and Grizzly Salvage both can get you a land out of the deal. While filling up your graveyard. And what that does, it allowed us to play a smaller land count in 22, and I may even consider going down to like 21. But, there are a lot of games where you do want to hit your land drops, specifically because we're playing Pack Rat. Now, Pack Rat is a card that we've seen over and over again out of these mono black decks that are like heavy removal based, Thoughtseize based, and sometimes Pack Rat just runs away with the game. Now, what I'm trying to do with Pack Rat is a little different, but we do have the backup plan of just Pack Rat with Mutavault to overrun our opponent should they not have the correct answer at the correct time, or overvalue something like Elvish Mystic early in the game. A lot of people, they'll see an Elvish Mystic on turn 1, and if they're on the play, they're just going to turn 2, kill it with the Ultimate Price, and Doomblade or something, and allowing you to stick your Pack Rat and go crazy on them after a few turns.
I mean, the best thing about going all in on a Pack Rat is, the one thing I do like about this strategy compared to most is, if Mono Black has to go all in on a Pack Rat, and they look like they're going to start losing with those Pack Rats, they don't have a follow-up. Their follow-up is Desecration Demon. But if you have just an Endless Obedience in your hand, and it looks like your Pack Rats aren't going to get the job done, well, I think a 5/5 that kills whatever you want complements that strategy pretty well. Yeah. And then you can start making, rats next turn.
Yeah, that's a great point. And being able to turn 3 discard with Pack Rat, and then turn 4 untap and have 2 creatures to convoke Endless Obedience is actually pretty huge. And that was something that you told me yesterday while we were talking about this deck, and I loved it. And the idea seems great.
Yeah. See, I'm very good at Magic. Todd's like, how should I build my Reanimator deck? I'm like, have you tried Pack Rat?
Brad, you're such a jerk. God.
No, I'm just saying it's telling the best card in Standard to put the best card in Standard in your deck.
Yeah. Anyway, so our gigantic targets are 4 Ashen Riders and 2 Hornet Queens, and our kind of mid-range target is Shadowborn Demon. But let's start one at a time. Ashen Rider, just one of the best cards you can reanimate in Standard right now. It's pretty comparable to Sylvan Primordial, except Ashen Rider can actually deal with Thassa, and Thassa is pretty huge game against this deck, and we don't actually need the extra land to get off of Sylvan Primordial, so that part's irrelevant. Plus, the fact if our opponent casts Supreme Verdict or just kills it somehow means that we get, double duty out of it. The 2 Hornet Queens, I've already learned from the Court of Calling decks that this card is nearly unbeatable from most decks when it hits play, so I like this guy a lot. The 1/1 Flyers being Death Touch is pretty gigantic and makes me want to play this over a Born Overlord, which was the block constructed go-to for the that type of effect. We have a couple of Bavarebos to give us ways to race in a lot of situations with Pack Rat, Lala Troll, but also use as ways to reanimate these guys. Being able to bring back a Hornet Queen, attack them for 2, gain 2 life, whatever, but you get to stick your 4/1/1 Death Touch flyers, and that's huge. The mana base actually got significantly better with the addition of Llanowar Waste, which I'm very happy about. It actually gives us free range to play 4 Mutavaults for the Pack Rats, and that gives us basically 2 different game plans because we have enough dual lands to actually do something with it. A Singleton Urborg doesn't hurt either, even though I'm not sure it's actually necessary in this deck. And sometimes it will bite you if your opponent is playing like Mono Blue with Nightveil Spectre and they draw a Mutavault. But I'm hoping that I can use it to my advantage as opposed to giving my opponent an advantage. And then, like I said earlier, we have 3 white sources in case we desperately need to cast Ashen Rider. We can find them pretty easily with Salvage, Wayfinder, but we also have additional white sources with Sylvan Keratin.
Yep. I think the only thing that I would have done differently, and I'm going to make you do it, and we're just going to make a quick change, is this should be a Temple Garden. I don't think it should be. I think 16 green sources
I felt like I was
low.
a little short on black sources because I only had 13. I mean, you could be right. See, I have 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Well, this can get you a black
sources.
source, and this is a black source.
That is true. Actually, yeah, let's just change that.
We'll change this to a Temple Garden.
Yeah, this is just going to end up being a Temple Garden. The deck list should be changed by the time that you guys see this, but ignore the Temple of Silence. There we go.
I've got it.
All right, while Brad's doing that, we're going to talk real quick about Restock because Brad thinks that this card is unplayable. I agree that
No. You twisted my words around. I said I know it's unplayable.
Okay. Bold words, but I actually think that Restock could be very good, and this is another card
that for 2.
Can I finish?
No.
Jeez. So, I mean, there are times where Restock's not going to do very much, or it's going to be a little too slow. I understand that. This is not a card for the times where that's going to happen, or the matchups where that's going to be pretty regular. I don't want to draw this card against Rabble Red. I don't want to draw this card against Mono Black aggro, or any deck that's trying to put a lot of pressure on me.
I don't want you to draw this card in my matchup.
Yeah, Brad does not want to me to draw this card in this matchup because all he's going to do is try to kill all my stuff.
Yeah.
And so being able to bring back like 2 copies of Endless Obedience, or to like mill over Whip and bring back like Whip Endless Obedience, or just like, bring back more Satyr Wayfinders to keep filling up my graveyard and stuff. There's a lot of things that this card can do, and this card actually gets a lot better after Sideboard when we get access to Duress. And so against the control matchups, there are a lot of games where we're going to go like, turn 1 like Mana Guy, turn 2 like Duress Wayfinder, and sometimes like turn 4 we go like Restock, hit your hand with another Duress, and like also have Endless Obedience on backup for Ashen Rider.
Yes, let's go to the sideboard.
Fine. I'll let you do the sideboard, Brad, because clearly I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so the sideboard is pretty straightforward. I think that this sideboard actually can be built in a way that, it kind of complements the main deck with Satyr Wayfinder's Grizzly Salvage. But I am not that skilled of building sideboards for new decks, and I want to just make sure I had some pretty powerful ways to interact with decks that I might have a little trouble with. Jund Monsters, decks with a lot of creatures like Mono Blue, I just want to have Doom Blades to be able to kill some of their more important creatures like Master of Waves. Control decks, I wanted Duress, Stay in the Mine, and a second Restock so that I could try to not necessarily grind them out as far as card advantage goes, but like pick apart their hand with this, make sure they can't either Supreme Verdict or Sphinx's Revelation depending on the spot we're in, and then Restock to maybe gain a little value if they're able to sweep away all of my early mana accelerators. Second Shadowborn Demon can come in against matchups where I need the Doom Blades and I just need to attrition them out. Through Nelly's Disciple against red decks, and then a Pithing Needle to come in against decks with a lot of Planeswalkers, such as this one.
Yeah. No, I mean, the sideboard for a Reanimator deck, I've built my fair share of Reanimator strategies, and I've always learned that the sideboards make no sense by the time you go to a tournament with them.
Yeah.
They just, when you look at the 50 cards, you're like, why are these here?
Yeah.
It's just like, 4 Sword of War and Peace were in one of my Reanimator sideboards, along with 4 Stringgeist or whatever. Like, weird stuff happens, so like, you're never going to get it right on the first try.
Yeah, I agree, and I definitely don't think that this sideboard is exactly right. I'm not saying that at all. Like I said, it probably should be way more complementary to the main deck as opposed to just like doing its own thing. I kind of feel like right now it's doing its own thing. One card I do want to try out is it Resolute Archangel that resets your life back to 20? I think just like a one of that over maybe one of the Nelly Disciples would be kind of cool. But it is double white, and I can like never hard cast it really
just have
in
to
the
combo
matchups
it.
where I want it, you know. But yeah. So anyway, guys, that is Black Green Reanimator. We're gonna get to fighting, and I'm gonna see if this deck's actually any good.